It will endure.
We will. We
Professionalism.
I can.
Professionalism.
Professionalism. Anyway, welcome to Star
Did you
Trek.
just say I can cut? There's no chance they're going to be doing any editing. I know you, Idle.
If it's deemed necessary,
Yeah.
I will open up a
sure.
video editor and put some actual effort in for once, but let's try not to. Anyway, welcome to Star Trek, Trek, our ongoing series review of all of Star Trek, and we have journeyed into the Delta Quadrant once again to talk about Phage, the introduction of three things. The introduction of Phage, the introduction of Neelix's kitchen, the introduction of Phage.
Keep us Phage.
I love these Phage eggs.
Promise you're adults.
By the way, if you are a Trek only enjoyer for the first time, welcome Danjvin to Trek.
Yes.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
So yeah, we get introduced to three things. We get introduced to Neelix's kitchen, which I completely forgot that was a plot point. We get introduced to the Dr. Kess relationship, and also the Vidians. I forgot a lot about this episode. I forgot they weren't portrayed as antagonists at the start, because I think Dan, you said like as we were doing the watch along, you say, well, right, 35 minutes in, and now here are the villains.
Villains. Yes.
Yeah,
Well, they are. You just you don't hear them talking until 35. But they are the bad guys from the start, or from the time Neelix. Which,
that
by the
is
way,
the Phantom of the Opera feel, right? So, I mean, they're off in the stage left. And
No, you talk.
And now you talk.
No. The show can't move along until Idle prompts us.
Oh,
so.
okay. Well, in which case, this one was directed by a long-standing director, Winrick Kolb, or Kolbe. I don't know the exact.
Kolbe.
Winrick
Kolbe.
Kolbe, who directed none other than loads of episodes of Star Trek, including Caretaker, Past Prologues, Blood Oath, Darmok.
Hold on a second.
Go on.
So is that what happens when you direct a really good episode? You go, Colby, and you fade away.
No, stop. We have made this joke. You made the exact same joke when we talked about it the first time. I'm pretty sure.
Guess what? The viewers wouldn't have remembered if you didn't remind them.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure you have.
But stick to the script, Idle.
I'm trying. But he also directed Up the Long Ladder as well, so take from that what you will. This story was by...
Guess what? The problem with Up the Long Ladder is not the direction.
The story was done by Timothy DeHaas, who also did Season 4 of TNG's Identity Crisis, and I think that's his only written scripts for Star Trek. I think that was the one...
That's the one where Geordi becomes a weird alien, right? Okay, that's not an awful episode.
Yeah, but anyway. But yeah, this is... we get Neelix losing lungs. We get some... there's a lot better than I remember.
Well, that's the thing. We've kept on talking about, like, oh, this is really good for Season 1 for Voyager. This is really good for Season 1. And it's like, that is a fair descriptor to say, because, like, Season 1 of Voyager is pretty rough, and Season 2 is also because they're kind of an amalgamous whole. Like, they were split in half, as I recall. But I think, also you said something that I think was completely true. It's like, this is just a good episode of Star Trek, because it's like, you have professionals in space who encounter a problem and they come up with innovative solutions that make sense, that are based in relatively sensible science, and they take the time to explain it and show you how and why it works, and you buy it instinctively. Like, yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. There's no warp particles. There's no let's bounce some bullshit off the tachyon grid or whatever. It's like, no, the holographic lungs perfectly makes sense. It's within the rules of the universe. And then you get to your villains, and we say villains because they're, the antagonistic force. But even though they are talking like, Phantom of the Opera rejects, they're not evil. They are explicitly sketched out as people who are doing something for, out of actual necessity. Like, they literally have to do this or they will die. And it's a case of like, they aren't doing it for fun. They obviously regret it, and there are divisions within their culture. Like, you have Dereth or Derek, who is a lot more inured to this. He's a lot like, well, it is the cost of living, whatever. I've made my peace with doing this a long time ago. And then the younger guy, I didn't catch his name. Like, he's Motaro. A lot more Motaro. Thank you. He's a lot more obviously regretful and a lot more. I'm living my life. I do my best to contribute in an artistic sense and live a fulfilling life, knowing full well that I'm provided for out of the death and disfigurement and maiming of other people. And that obviously affects me. And it's like, they do a lot of work with 45 minutes here, like in terms of like, and then that's not even getting to the character development.
Let me back up a sec, because there's more to cover with the Vidians, but they hit like all the boxes you want from Star Trek. They have a new and interesting antagonist. They have a cool new, what's it called?
MacGuffin?
Like the sci-fi idea, of doing the missing lung. And I read that someone compared it to Spock's brain, because like there's an organ missing, we got to go find it. It's like, bro, Spock's brain is such a joke. How dare you put it in the same conversation? They had a little hook with the brain. Everything else about that episode is garbage. So they have a cool little hook. They have the way they shift back and forth from dramatic to hysterical, funny writing. And it's all in character. It all works really well. It doesn't take you out of the moment to laugh and then to see Janeway on the edge of tears. It's like they tick every single box for a solid episode. And like you said, we go into it with a mindset of, this is a first season episode. It's good for first season. And then 10 minutes later, you're like, this is just good for any season. This is solid. That's a Star Trek. I might hit that button later because it is a really good episode. Yeah. But back to the Vidians.
I've been talking a lot.
No, all right, Dan, jump in.
Yeah, so
they're fighting each other.
So so here's the Vidians, and they're painted as the shadowy villains, and then when we finally see them, they're repulsive, but they're painted as being sympathetic, but they're kind of like Borg light in much smaller scale, right? Because they just assimilate you, just one organ at a time. We're just taking a little bit. It's like the little boy stealing an apple at the bazaar, and Jasmine comes and forgives him. And so it's like, they're not, they're clearly criminal and they know what they're doing is wrong. But how wrong is it? What's the line? Have they crossed that line? And
did we just get an Aladdin reference?
Well, yeah, you got it. But
this is why you get different people on.
You bring a guy
coming on again, Dan.
This is what you're gonna get, So. But again, a great, good storytelling, right? So, because they've tried to find and walk that line so that you have to make a moral decision. But the problem is they're not doing anything for any greater good. Their race is dying, and it's just them fighting for their own survival. But to what end? They don't have any end game other than eventually we're going to fall apart. So let's just keep going, I guess. And so that kind of defeats them. I'm not sure where they go with them when they bring them back later on. I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But this. Yeah,
a bit. But you also get a lot more sympathetic with Danara Pell, who kind of becomes a representative.
I wouldn't say necessarily that they're more villainous. I would say that,
they push it a bit further.
Starfleet has this tremendous conceit that whoever they come across can eventually be won over to their set of ideals. And sometimes it just doesn't work. Like the Vidians don't have a choice to stop harvesting. They either do it or they die off. So I think finally Voyager comes to realize that, we can't like sweet talk them into being good guys. They're going to keep doing what they have to do. And then sort of that comes to a head. But I wouldn't necessarily say that they like become more evil over time.
Yeah, it's more like you meet individuals who are pushed further and further. And like it's like how you see in this, how you've got like Dereth and Matura, who are both very different outlooks on this. And then obviously you meet Sulan, I believe his name is, in Faces. And it's like people get driven insane by this because guess what? This is not a fun disease. Like you have to imagine like what happens when you're say you're 15 when you first get the phage, and you start losing your lungs, right? And you're like you're waking up, you're coughing up blood, and then it's like cool, I have to furnish you with a new pair of lungs. And it's like okay, and it tears you up inside, right? It's like this was stolen from someone. Someone is dead because of me, and I am alive purely because of their unwilling sacrifice. And then it's like, cool. 2 years later, I need a new heart. 3 years later, I need like a whole new like temporal lobe. And it's like, how many times can that happen to you?
I don't need.
And then you start getting into.
I'm just sick of this one that I'm looking at now. It's the wrong shade of green.
Well, that's the thing, right? You could. I don't even get into that where it's like, do you think there are Vidians who start like accelerating how fast they do? Do you think there are like hypochondriac Vidians who start doing this before they need to? Like, there's so many interesting questions you can bring up about this.
If you want to get into the seedy underbelly of the Vidians and get like human analog dystopian, the rich get the best organs, and meanwhile there's like people dying in the streets. Like that would be such an easy story to do.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. That's what I kind of appreciate about the videos is they do not turn up all the time because I think that, unlike say the Borg, they knew that there's only so many times you can have this race turn up and conduct bioterrorism in a way before you completely lose the chain, the morality chain. It's like you can only do it so many times, and you have to keep that sympathetic side. Otherwise, they just become the Borg light. And there's just so many facets to it, and there's such an interesting psychology to develop to it, and a tragedy to it. Like, full disclosure, I am a massive sucker for the outwardly hideous-looking creature or person who has a heart of gold, or who has such sympathetic or redeeming quality. It's such a strong literary. Yes, it's literally
Beauty and the Beast.
Just say Beast.
Disney? Are you kidding me?
No, I'm talking about Marvel's Beast. It's such a strong literary conceit because it asks you to consider how much you can overlook, right? Okay, so say someone's a little bit ugly, and guess what? They're beautiful. And it's like, okay, well, what if they're an actual monster? Well, it's like, guess what? What if they're absolutely beautiful inside? What if they are an artist? What if they are a person of great culture? What if they are made up of the pieces of other people? And then you get into other philosophical things like, how many pieces of your body do you replace?
Are we talking about
Let Idle get a chance?
Shit. Yeah.
Okay.
Let Idle get a chance here.
Yeah.
I was just saying, are you talking about Vidians or Neelix here? But
well, I was going to say, so you get into the ship of Theseus argument of how many pieces of other people's bodies do you integrate into yourself before you become? It's that could be a whole identity crisis of its own. There's so much storytelling potential introduced with this race right off the bat that it's you can take these people anywhere. They are not pigeonholed into any one kind of story, and they do, with Danara Pell, go into quite a interesting place with it. What was I going to say? There was nothing I was going to say. Oh, and it also, the cool thing about the Vidians is that if you think about it, they are a thematic mirror to Voyager. Because if you think about the fact that Voyager starts off this episode with, we need to find Dalithium to keep ourselves going. We have a long journey ahead of us. We need to become self-sufficient. And and obviously they don't pose the question here, but later on they do start questioning, okay, how far do we push this? How desperate do we have to be before we have to start doing things we don't like?
Taking the job
is this the Binar's dilemma? So why didn't you just ask for help? Because you might have said no.
Yeah, because then I couldn't chance you saying no because it's too important. And it's if you think about it, it's there is a thematic link here between the Vidians and Voyager's plight in which you question how far will you go? How many moral lines will you cross? And we were joking about the fact that Janeway is agonizing over a choice she's going to make later on in the season anyway with Tuvix. But it is a question of okay, is that inconsistent writing, or is that a degradation of moral? But is that a degradation of your moral fiber? And I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I feel that's an.
You're right on, because they are seeing shadows of what they could become, and so their decisions are going to inform whether they turn out just like the Vidians. Another note to why they're so sympathetic is the whole idea of an organ donor. So somebody who consents to volunteering their organs. And I don't think that the episode really explored that, but that's, everybody has had somebody in their lives that has suffered through some sort of bodily failure, organs. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong as you age. And so the question is do we wait for somebody who has already consented, or is this person important enough? Like you said, are they the artist, the scholar, the person who preserves the culture that is dying, and how important is that compared to what they're going for?
Yeah, no,
but there's not enough space in 42 minutes to really get that deep. So
yeah.
Idle, talk to me about the design of them, because we all commented when we were watching it, and that's another big aspect that even before you get the speech and all the dialogue and stuff, that really helps set the tone.
We're recording this near Halloween, we're only a few days away from Halloween, and they are freaky looking. This is probably the most horrific looking alien Star Trek's ever produced, because they're literally bits of other people. It's very Cronenberg-esque, bits of other people fused and melded. You can literally look at the skin and the detail and go, that looks like that alien, that looks like a bit of that alien, and they've a lot of care and attention. I kind of love it. I love the Vidian's design. I kind of
Well, especially because
like,
then they make sure that each one looks different. They're not deformed in the same way. That'd be so easy to do.
And, things like that. I feel like I know you say like they don't use the they sparingly use the Vidians. I kind of could see more. I'd like to go more into.
I would have wanted more. Yeah, totally.
Definitely more than what
I had to go look at the air date when you mentioned that. Both Genesis and Phage were in like March and February, so it wasn't even close to. They should have capitalized.
Guys, you're missing out.
What about Mr. Neelix? Because the focus is Neelix loses lungs and has like a bit of a crisis of faith in being locked in his iron lung and having only the doctor for company.
I love giving Neelix credit. And even more love giving Ethan Phillips credit. I want to try to, maybe I can sell you guys. I'm going to do my best pitch. I want to sell you on the episode or the scene that kind of we all were like, He's an insanely jealous character in early on. He wants to control Cass. We get several episodes where he's at odds with Mr. Paris for what he perceives as making passes at Cass. But I think it fits perfectly in this episode. He's immobile. He doesn't know if he's ever going to get out. He's lost all control. So what he needs to do is try to regain some semblance of control. But he tries to do that by exerting it on Cass. Don't talk to him. I saw him flirting with you. And it's easy to just say, oh, that's just him being crappy in the early seasons. But it really fits because he has no control left. All he has is his voice. And so he tries to claw a little bit of that back. And I think it really fit well, the character at that point in the episode.
Yeah, there is like that degree of like, when someone is being handed a terminal diagnosis and they handle it badly, it's like, do you really want to hold that against them? Like, they've just had, you think of like the prognosis that Doc gave him. It's like, yeah, you're going to be sat in this bed for presumably the rest of your entire life. You can't move more than 2 microns or you will literally die. Yeah, I feel like we'd all start like, fucking freaking out and like, slashing out at that kind of. That's rough, man. It's
more than that to me. Like if I were in that situation where I've so I've started out and now I've finally gotten to express myself artistically. So I've gotten to share my cooking and try to impress the crew in a different way. And now all of a sudden I'm helpless. I cannot be the provider. I can't provide Kes with what she needs. I can't provide the crew with what they need. It's a struggle every parent will eventually go through when they become a burden to their own children. So I mean that's where I'd freak out. That's where I empathize with them.
And that's also
they bring it up in a later episode too, where Voyager gets to the edge of what Neelix knows star chart wise, and he's like, and so he basically breaks the law to try to get star chart. He's like, I didn't want you to see me running out of usefulness to the crew. So it is sort of an early season thread where it's like, he's got to impress with the galley because Janeway was on his back. He's got to try to earn his keep for him and Cass, and suddenly that's taken away. So,
yeah, it's very easy to imagine that he thinks, oh, well, how long are they going to let me stay here in their biobed draining resources? Like, what if someone is dying and needs this biobed? How am I going to get shut off? And it's like, Neelix at this point has not been with the crew long enough to, he takes them at a word to a point, but especially in this like fractious emotional point, it's like, this I could potentially be looking at a death sentence a week down the line when they decide I'm not worth it. And it's like, and then what does that mean for Kes? And he has to kind of provide for her as well. And it's like, there's a really messy psychological thing going on here. And poor Neelix, like, when you actually peel it back and think about it, it's like his reactions make a lot more sense, honestly.
And the other element we actually had in this episode as well was a rarity for Voyager, but actually character development of the Doctor. Actually starting to sort of see, Kes into that conversation between Kes and the Doc was great because it's
I don't know if it's rare for the Doc.
Yeah.
Okay, but in terms of what we know from other characters in the show, I would say like there is literally zero Kim development, things like that.
Well, it's also you get a bit of development for Cass as well because this is where she gets
the clarinet. What more do you want, Idol? Come on.
But it's like you also get a bit of development for Kes here in terms of like, oh, I want to know more about your medical thing. I want to stand up and be more present. So I have to represent for Neelix because he can't for himself. I want to exude a bit of control for myself. I can't just be a helpless waif standing here not knowing anything and being uninformed. Janeway also gets a bit of development where like she gets like, she's not she's obviously the captain guiding force. I give all the orders, but the scene in the transporter room, like that's a really strong moral statement on who Janeway is meant to be as your kind of your nexus character for the rest of the crew.
I want to jump back to Kess because your significant other is on the bed dying.
Mm.
You're in a new situation that you've only been in for a few days, maybe a week. I don't know how long the time frame is.
Maybe a month, yeah.
He's extremely emotional and agitated, and on your case about something that you can't control. The absolute poise of Cass and a 20-year-old Jennifer Lean to not only have the presence of mind to calm him down, but then turn to the doctor and say, okay, what can I do to improve things? Like, she was a rock for this. And actually, let me pull up the quote from one of the people that worked on the teleplay. She said, there were only two people on board that have any sort of defined relationship. I wanted to do a script that would affect one person and that would tear at the emotions of another so that you see how it would affect her. I didn't want to do Janeway or Chakotay or any of the others injured because at that point no one cared about them as much. We cared about Neelix and Kes immediately because we saw how much they cared about each other. So it was originally supposed to be Paris that lost it in Oregon. They switched it to Neelix specifically so they could have Kes play off, and I think she absolutely nailed it in this episode, especially for the age of the actress.
Yeah, and I think it was the right call, because like if this had happened to Paris, it's like, okay, who is going to be his Kes in this instance? Like, Kes, well, that's going to open a whole other can of worms with Neelix. You can have that makes Neelix look really bad. Yeah, well, and I think Kim and Tom are like they're good. They're friends. They've got that kind of Bashir O'Brien thing going. Yeah. 15 varieties of tomato soup. You bond for life over that shit. But like, yeah, it's like I can't. Yeah, they don't have. Maybe if it was like Janeway and Tuvok, I could see that, because they go to great efforts in this episode to establish just how well they know each other. Like that could have maybe worked as an alternative, but I think they probably made the right call in making it Neelix and Cass.
What does the episode and then the next season of Voyager look like if they stuck with Paris and made it Janeway instead? Because she was supposed to have, early on, the writers wanted her and Paris to have a relationship. What if she's torn between doing the captain thing, dealing with the Vidians, and then like a budding affection for Paris? Would that have worked? Could that have been like a launching pad for more stuff down the line?
Like soap opera plots? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm having trouble picturing it, because like I feel like that concept that they were going for of Janeway and Paris, like that's so anathema to me of what I know the characters turn into, but also just in terms of what their roles are on the ship. Like I feel like I would look badly upon Janeway for that. I would have a moral judgment on her if she allowed her, potentially romantic affections for Paris to influence that decision. Whereas, like for Kes and Neelix, I don't have that kind of moral judgment because they aren't within the traditional rank structure. And I feel like they made the right call in not going for that.
So it's surprising to me also. So at this point, we're still very early on. How quickly they've dropped the fifth episode, is that right?
Yep.
They've dropped all mention of the Maquis, and I would think the Maquis would sympathize with the Vidian's plight. Punching up, limited resources, taking what you can, strategic strikes, and there's no mention whatsoever. Everybody's just a Starfleet crew. So this more feels like a leftover episode of Next Gen, where everyone just kind of gets along and does the job. So
a little bit, yeah.
We saw the Martha Hackett credit in the beginning. Where was she?
She was in engineering.
She was in engineering. Yeah, all she had was like a line about, we're getting a power drain. That was
see
it.
the back of her head, literally.
Some kind of power drain.
Some kind of Martha Hackett.
It's just weird to get a title credit in one line. That's
she was big enough in Star Trek at that point.
Uncommon.
You see her name and you go, it's that Romulan lady.
Yes.
Actually, they would have been filming.
Boys only want one thing, and it's disgusting. And then it's like Martha Hackett as Seska.
Actually, I think about this time they just filmed The Search, hadn't they? And she was the Romulan commander in that, so she's kind of everywhere. She was like the one.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, better. My question for you guys is: if this was any other crew and any other Doctor, who would be losing the lung, and how would the Doctor in that series respond to it? And I kind of want to go with, if it's M'Benga, he may have just turned off life support.
No, he would have just pressed.
There would be a life support button about that big on the panel. He would slowly press it.
Yeah,
the easy button.
No, he'd shove him in the transporter buffer. Obviously, that's what he always does. I don't know. I guess I could see this working in TOS if you made it maybe Scotty that lost a lung. I could see someone like Scotty taking that really hard because he lives for engineering, he lives for problem solving, and I could see him going fucking stir crazy, being stuck in sickbay. I could see McCoy and him like having a similar sort of dynamic. Obviously, McCoy is a little bit more of a people person than the Doc at this point. And you can see Kirk being really torn up about this because like he and Scott have a really strong professional relationship, but he's also really good friends with McCoy. I could see that dynamic working out really well. I could see that if you did this in TOS.
I like the idea. That's a good one. I like the idea of, and I hate to put Counselor Troy in a bed as another plot point to a Next Generation plot, but I think her, and they touched upon in the episode, like there's no counselor on the ship, right? Is what the doctor said. So what would happen if somebody who has a tremendous emotional impact winds up being the subject of this sort of trauma?
I could also see it being like it would be different from all the telepathic rape, but it's a case of like it would be really tricky for someone like Troy who takes such a proactive role in being helpful to others to just be stuck in one place. It's like, yeah, she can still technically do her job because she's in sickbay, she can still talk, but like I don't know. I always like took Troy as someone who took like a great joy in like the small pleasures, like her whole thing with chocolate. I think is like a really nice humanizing part of her character. And like she obviously takes pleasure in being a healthy physical active person. Like, you see that being really, really like traumatic for her to have to deal with, like being potentially stuck in sick bay for the rest of her life.
When her patients walk in and she can feel their pity as they see her in the RMR.
Ooh, that'd be strong.
We get that episode with the Lost, basically, where she lashes out at her patient thinking that she's pitying her when she's like, what are you talking about? You're reaching. So we do kind of get that already.
A little bit, yeah. But, yeah.
I'm going to go because I like, you guys didn't like the captain dynamic, so I'm going to repurpose it. I'm going to say Enterprise. Phlox is a great frontier medicine kind of doctor.
Yeah.
So he'd be, and he's got the humor. He's great in that role. Put Trip in the biobed and have Archer be the one, because they already have, if we're doing an episode 5 thing, you have to already have a pre-existing relationship, and that's Archer and Trip. And then have him balance. He's already a friggin' terrible diplomat. So have him balance dealing with the new race and then trying to save his friend. And like, he would be a mess at it, but it would be interesting to watch, I bet.
Well, and also a little bit sim, actually, yeah. But it's also
almost like there's a Star Trek trope that they keep repeating in these shows.
Yeah, but they're usually good. If you do them well, they're good. Yeah. But it's also a case of, like, especially if you did it early on, like that'd be a really easy way to establish the Archer and T'Pol relationship, which was very fractious at the beginning. But if she was the one who was able to pull him out of his fucking his ass and be like, look, you have to keep a level head here. If you are nice to these people, potentially you could get something out of here for Trip, and then that goes through. That'd be a really big building block in their relationship if you did the same episode and the same kind of stuff.
And that fits her character to a T, because she is she's always harping on them to be rational and be objective and be.
I'm gonna go with DS9, and I'm gonna pick Garrick and in the bed with Bashir. The doc. Oh, we've got our first. I got to edit something here. I'll clap so I can know where my marker points are. We're here. I do have to edit it.
That was a big freeze.
I'm gonna go with DS9, and I'm gonna pick.
Welcome to my world, by the way. Having done like 30 clips recently.
I'm gonna go with Garrick in the bed and Bashir treating, and I feel like.
Hold on, is this your fanfic or is this like an episode?
a little bit, yeah. I feel that, but there's some good moments there. Garrick has had that before with The Wire, but I feel like restricting him and having. I feel like Bashir would probably just clone Garrick and then just harvest the lungs from that Garrick and then just go on with it. Like, that's fine.
It's funny because I just watched the episode and he goes off to Nabrantane and everything, and so I guess you could say they did the Phage well. Yeah. And the Obsidian Order, kind of like the new race that he encounters. So
a little bit, yeah.
Give me some best.
No, not yet. Okay. We're not done talking about this great episode. So you touched on Janeway a little bit.
Did I?
But some of the background material online, they they say that this is kind of the first time she has to stretch her. Mulgrew has to stretch her wings as an actress in the episode. I think we all kind of felt that a little bit in the transporter room scene where we all just kind of stopped making jokes for 2 minutes and let her act, and it was enjoyable.
You know how hard that
Well,
was.
I feel. Guess what? I'm going to say something maybe controversial here, but I feel like when Kate Mulgrew is given a scene and the right script and a decent moral setup where she can work herself up to it, she is easily a match for Patrick Stewart.
Oh God, I knew you were going to say that.
I feel like it.
No.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's a Picard speech, so
it's a Picard speech, and she nails it. But it's also a case of like, it's uniquely Janeway in that she shows so much more emotion over it than Picard ever would. Like, Picard would not allow himself to be like seen having near tears in his eyes, but that's because that's the kind of person he is. It's a case of not in public, not TNG like season 3 or season 1 Picard would never show that. No, not in a million years. Does not believe in it.
But does
Janeway
that make the character better?
I feel like it makes it different. It immediately establishes her more emotive.
I will give her 90% of Sir Patrick, but having rewatched TNG recently, there are so many. Q said it. The fourth wall breaker said it. Sometimes I come here just to listen to these fabulous speeches of yours. That is like his calling card. Her calling card is killing her crewmates. His is fantastic speeches.
No, her calling card is having lesbian subtext for 7. That's what her calling card is.
Oh, I'll tune in for that too.
Yeah, but like seriously, I feel like she absolutely fucking nails it. She does such a good job, and it's an establishing moment for her because, like, if you think about what's come previously, like, yeah, you have moments of Janeway as a scientist, Janeway as someone in command, but I feel like this really solidifies who Janeway is as a person. It's someone who cares very deeply and is not afraid to show that. Like, I don't feel like Janeway is like, Picard is so removed from his crew in TNG. That's what the entirety of the conceit of all good things is about. It's about learning to close that distance. But Janeway here establishes herself as someone who involves herself very deeply and allows that to be shown.
What I want to give her credit for is she's the best mama or papa bear of all the series captains, to the extent that I think Archer might actually be number 2 in terms of like going to bat, defending his crew, shields up, red alert if anyone tries to screw with his crew. But she's number 1 with a bullet, I think, and we see that a lot.
Yeah, because I was going to say, well, Sisko, but it's like, no, Sisko is actually quite, like, a bit... He takes these things more rationally. Like, even when, like, Jake was on the middle of DS9 in the middle of a war and he had no way of... He dealt with it, and it's like, yeah, it dwelled on him, but, like, I feel like if you put, like, Janeway in that similar kind of situation, she'd be like, no, fucking warp line me over there. I will fight them barehanded to get my child back.
Get my tank top on. Tank top and a phaser rifle, I'm going in.
Yeah, go full macrocosm. She'd straight up do it.
Mulgrew threads a needle here. It's very difficult to not come across as preachy or overbearing, to be, Otto, like you said, heartfelt.
Or hysterical.
Yeah, she plays a lot of different notes, but specifically in the speech, to be able to stand and deliver and everybody to be able to admire her, especially with so much to prove as she did. As a strong female lead, representing a lot of the Star Trek viewing population that had been underrepresented for a very long time. This is a really important moment.
You just gave me an idea, and actually the terrible overacting of the Vidians, like just their speech, actually makes her impassioned tear speech, like it puts it right in place. Like if they hadn't have been up to an 11, like maybe that would have been a little bit too much, but it actually sat perfectly because she wasn't anywhere close to the top, like, emotive person on the...
They should have had capes.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, that was the rule I remember them talking about in Voyager, where they said that the aliens have to overact a little bit to get through the makeup, but also to establish a personality. Yeah. And they wanted the human crew, especially the regulars, to go for a bit more of a subdued acting style. And for a bit of that, sometimes you get that, and it's like, oh, you're just underplaying the main cast, and you're letting the aliens shine ahead of them. And it's like, that's kind of a bad way to do it. But this episode kind of shows why that approach can work. Like Dan said, it's like, if you let these emotions play out and you set your contrast properly, it allows you to shine ever more brightly, even though you're not hitting the high note. You're going for a really finely threaded mid note, as it were.
My favorite example of that rule is Strange New Worlds, those old scientists, where Boimler and Mariner are bouncing off the walls. But the Strange New Worlds cast plays it almost deadpan, and they get in all their funny jokes and all the funny licks, and it fits. It feels normal because those other guys are floating up top. So it kind of distracts from the in a good way. We're not done yet. Let's talk about I know you want to wrap it up so we can do another one. I want to talk about Tuvok. He has two great moments. One, in sickbay, like what a friggin' security officer. He's there with the phaser, ready to go as soon as there's any hint of a threat. Like that's why he's not like the window dressing red shirts in so many TNG episodes. He's ready there to do his job. And then we get the little speech he gives Janeway on the bridge that felt like a first officer speech.
Yeah.
Like, because they have that pre-existing relationship, and then Chakotay looks like, paste on the wall because he's there doing nothing while Tuvok is counseling her in front of everyone with, like, the uniforms off. So that was an interesting... I don't know if I loved it, but it was definitely interesting.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like, all respect to Rob Beltran. Like, I imagine he hadn't completely thrown in the towel by this point, but it's like, he's just not as interesting. Well, I mean, part of the entire reason he was here was because he wanted to act with Genevieve Bujold, right? And she's gone. Yeah. So I imagine he's already he's already halfway out the door. But it's like, Tuvok is just such a stronger character because he has such a well-defined limit within which he acts. And that first officer speech, it is so very Vulcan, but it is not a speech that I think either T'Pol or Spock would have given. I don't. Maybe T'Pol in the later season. Maybe, but maybe. But it's the case of especially that you'd have to really work up to, especially with T'Pol. Like, you'd have to wait for season 3 or 4 for her to give this kind of advice to Archer. But there's such an affection, an obvious affection, and familiarity. And look, I know you're going to do it already. This is just a formality, but it behooves me to say, I know what you're going to do. I don't think you should do it, but you're going to do it anyway. I have to register it. Go ahead. And then she's like, gotcha. And it's just it's such a well-played moment between the two of them. I love the Janeway Tuvok dynamic so much. It's so much fun.
I like when captains... either consciously or subconsciously request permission from their subordinates to be the person that they are.
Yeah.
Like when Riker knows Picard is going to do something, he's like, no, you can't beam down. And he's always got to say it twice. He's like, regulations. And he's like, all right, go ahead, beam down. Pilot the ship through the asteroid. Do what you want to do. Yeah.
You go and get the Argo. Fine. Fuck it.
Like Gandalf shooting off fireworks.
All right, now you can wrap us up.
Oh, can I? Have I got your permission? Fantastic.
Best You're allowed.
Worst moments.
See, the captain got permission from the first officer. That's how it works.
Right, hey, bookends.
Best and worst.
I'm the con officer. Stars can be first. So I don't want that. I don't want to have to write up reports. I just want to drive the ship.
No, it just means you now have to chat up the 2-year-old in medical. Anyway, best and worst moments. Dan, please go first.
Oh, I liked. I said this in the pre-show. I think I love their little toys. I wanted when I was a kid. I wanted the little Vidian toy. So somebody 3D print one and I'll buy it from you. The worst part was how grating, and understandably, but how grating Neelix still could be. He failed to thread the needle in some points.
So I didn't sell you on his Kess bashing being a form of trying to maintain control.
Right.
Auto, go on.
Best moment.
Oh, you said it was the toy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, great props. There you go.
Good prop.
Well, in fact, I'll go further on that and just say the design for the Vidians in general, because you also mentioned how good their logo is in terms of
right.
going antagonist.
Race that they did nothing with really. Go on, Auto.
They're fleshed out, huh? Yes.
Hey. That's good. This is what we're bringing.
Dan, you're definitely coming back.
Hey.
The worst moment is the Phantom of the Opera, the Vidian, their speech patterns, and I almost talked myself into it being like a net neutral because of the way it might have enhanced Janeway, but no, it brought it down for me. It made otherwise understandable, compassionate aliens feel like a parody, and I didn't like it. Best moment was Doc calling Paris a walking hormone. So true. But yeah, all of his little jokes, his little wisecracks. My scanner says you're not here. Believe me, I wish I wasn't. He had so many good lines, and nobody could deliver him better than Bob Picardo. So
he's inimitable.
In an episode where we talked about like 8 other cast members as being great, he was also great.
And a lot of heavy subject matter. It's like we really needed that fucking that humor.
Go on, Stars.
Okay, best moment. I'm going to just shamelessly go for it. It's Mulgrew in the transport room. I remember when I first watched this for Brody. Because I think we did like 3 or 4 episodes on the first thing of just like a caretaker, blah blah blah, and then we got to this one. It's like cool. This is the moment that Janeway becomes someone you can really respect. This was one where she becomes not just a scientist, not just a commander, but this is where she becomes the captain of her crew. This is the one where she establishes that she is a Starfleet person through and through. She has a moral code that will be tested. That she will find interfering with her emotions, and that she's going to have to make her peace with, dancing on the side of the devil or not. Which you get to see tested way, way, way back in Equinox and
or becoming the devil in some cases.
Well, yeah, exactly. But Mulgrew just fucking knocks it out of the park. Like, I know you said, oh, she's only 90% of Patrick's. Fuck that. I love her performance here. I think she does such a good fucking role. What a good speech. Damn right, honestly,
dude. Let's not Shatner bashing, all right? Because he's pretty good. They're all pretty good, all right.
Yeah. Well, apart from Archer. Anyway, yeah, that's my best. I just fucking love Janeway. When Janeway is written correctly, I love her like nothing else. Worst moment, Chakotay, honestly, just like the first officer having absolutely no contribution to the plot other than saying something that honestly feel like it would be more of a tactical or science officer to do. Harry Kim could have given that line. Yeah, I mean that could have been a Harry line, honestly, or a Torres line. And it's like I guess I could knock it for not having any development for Torres or Chakotay or there are characters who don't get anything, but it's like. Considering how many other characters hit really good notes here, I feel like it's kind of nitpicking. Well, you know what?
Oh, and we got another break. That's my little waveform clap there, so I can edit it. Hey, that was great.
Thanks, Discord. Yeah,
we'll move after
this.
Yeah,
so, I will knock Ethan Phillips' acting when he was first gotten with the Vidian thing. Where he's it's like
his O face.
Yeah. That I'll say that's the worst moment of the episode for me. It's like, come on.
2 things to support your point with Chakotay. One, they gave the first officer speech to Tuvok, which it fits or whatever, but they did. Yeah. And I forgot number 2, but you're right. He wasn't that great in this episode.
Yeah. I was like, he will get good episodes, but this was not one of them. This is not a episode you will pick off your Chakotay best of.
We didn't shout out that the mirror room thing with the bouncing phaser.
I'm getting that. I'm
sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, my best and my worst are the same thing. They are literally the funky hall of mirrors. So it's a cool concept. Voyager goes in there and sees multiple reflections of itself and does this whole cool firing the beam. You got your laser pointer there and you're firing. You're trying to find it. That was really cool. It was great bit of CG. You don't expect them to sort of put the budget into such a small part of the episode, but
especially considering the fact that prosthetics must have been expensive as well.
Exactly. This is quite an expensive episode all around. But it's also
that was real ham they used on their heads, by the way.
That's the good shit. That's the charcuterie stuff. But it's also my worst because the ship was right there. It was literally they just had a bunch of load lasers off until it stopped hitting. And also, when did the Vidians have the time to set up a load of mirrors inside an asteroid? They said this.
Well, I think the assumption was that this was a base that they have the whole.
It's an artificial asteroid, but they built it and then decided, you know what we need in here? We need an elaborate trap the Golden Gun style with loads of mirrors. So anyone comes in here will just see themselves and they'll freak out and go, you know what?
Is it a plastic surgery horror vanity thing that they have so many mirrors?
Maybe,
That's interesting.
Yeah, maybe that's
well, or it could just be a case of, hey, we need to lure people in, drain their power, and then we descend upon their ship and cut them up.
All right, hold on.
the
Hold on.
indication.
If you've ever cracked open like an ugly looking rock on the outside and has a geode with beautiful crystals inside, it could be a natural formed, like shiny surface kind of thing on the. It's the inside of an asteroid. Just you go with the geode analogy, then your world will be settled.
I think the whole plot point just lacks polish.
But
it's on that note, stars, please give us our rating criteria for this week.
Thank you. All right, gentlemen, how many some kind of phaser azimuths out of 10 would you like to give this episode?
Dan, you first.
Yeah, I was impressed. I haven't seen Voyager in so long, and so what I have seen of it that's come just randomly on TV has been nowhere near the level of this one. I would watch this with any crew. I think I would give this 8 of whatever you said stars out of 10. Some kind of rating system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go Auto.
See, when we do longer reviews like this, my score either keeps going up, 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 or down, down, down the more we talk. And I do like to put things in context. For a season 1, 5th episode of a show, how many series have you watched where the 5th episode is this good? So I got to give it.
Stranger Worlds.
That's cheating.
Yeah, but I mean,
that's in the normal way.
And not only that, it's aged well. It's like there's no CGI that looks, oh, that's terrible. Like there's nothing that's aged terribly yet.
Slapping the hologram's face, that was a little cheesy, but yeah.
But it was also a great moment, though. The CGI might not have been up to the task, but it was still a hilarious moment.
God. Do these come back to you?
9.7.
9.7. Whoa!
I love this episode.
And
there's like 10 different levels we can explore. I love when you can dive into an episode and explore everything and follow little trails. And this gave us so much. It was a very giving episode.
Stars.
I'm also gonna go way up high. I'm gonna give this a 9.5 phaser azimuths out of 10. This is like if every episode of Voyager was like this, I feel like it'd be just as well regarded as DS9 in terms of like smart sci-fi conceits, innovative problem solving, good character dynamics, character development, cool and interesting like alien races. Like this is everything you actually want from Star Trek, and a moral dilemma that is genuinely prickly to untangle. Like I can't think of anything else I would have really asked for this episode. It opens so many doors. It's such a good season 1 episode as well, because it's like you can do anything with this alien race. You can develop them so much.
We even got 2 minutes at the beginning talking about the stuff they should have talked about every episode. We're running low on reserves. Chakotay and Janeway talking about ration packs, and then Neelix taking over the kitchen. Like that was important stuff that should be in a lot more episodes than it's in.
I'll give this a smooth 8. I enjoyed it. I don't think it was. I think there are better episodes to come. I think there's better stuff. I mean, the 8's amazing for this kind of early. Their start. I'm talking like I'm the lowest score here, but like no, it was a really enjoyable episode. I feel like Neelix is wearing thin on the shtick a little bit with some of his stuff, but you do cheer a little inside when they zap his lungs out, and it is a great plot point. Sorry, I'm a hideous human being.
Welcome to this episode of Stars and Autos. Just like touch themselves at how great Star Trek is.
Well, this does score now an 8.8, which now brings Star Trek up to a 6.1. No, wait, 6.1.
Nice.
Yeah, 6.1.
Star Trek or Voyager?
No, Star Trek or Voyager. I haven't actually done. Oh no, I have. Voyager's now up to a 6.2. So it's now better than Enterprise.
Improving the averages.
Wait, no, it's not. It's not better than Enterprise. Actually, it's. Oh no, TNG is still the worst rated.
Well, yeah, because TNG season 1 is.
To be fair,
amazing.
It is brutal early on.
But yeah, we are there. But we will be back in a couple of weeks for the next Trek episode, which will be Enterprise's Unexpected. We will see you then.